Holy is that really you? How's it going, guys? Will Robinson here from Robinson's Auto, toolsandtime.com. Welcome back. For those of you that follow my channel, probably noticed a pretty big disconnect in the last couple months. There's a lot going on. My time's been strapped. You know, as my day job, I'm an industrial mechanic. There was a new production line going in. I put in a lot of overtime to help out where I could with that whole process. It's all online now. I'm here to try to start this thing back up for you guys and see what I can bring to you. Today I got a 99 GMC Suburban. It was a pretty big undertaking. I just got done putting a transmission, rebuilt it, put it in. That seems to be working good. The motor pretty much going through a fresh up stage on it, timing chain, water pump, whole 9 yards. Has a leaky intake gasket. It's a very common problem on these things. I blame it on the deck's cool. You know, a lot of people may say otherwise. However, to me it seems like when they use deck's cool in these engines is when I see this problem. The gaskets go, all the plastic is brittle. So if you have any plastic tees or any kind of aluminum fittings on the intake, when you're getting ready to do this job, you're probably going to break something. I can almost tell you that right off the bat. And especially right underneath the air cleaner box, I got one tee that's leaking right now. I got one that I replaced already, just by slightly bumping it during the other processes. So without further ado, let's get started on this intake. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is remove this intake duct, this whole works, just to get it out of my way, and it opens up a lot of space. So you got one wing nut here on the throttle body. We're going to take and remove that. Once you got that removed, you come over here, you have your mass airflow sensor, intake air temp. Get all that disconnected, and then it's pretty straightforward. You don't even have to unbuckle and take this apart. Just pull it out in one assembly. There's one of those plastic push clips that have the ribs on it that goes down into a little bracket. So if you pull straight up on it, and then you pull out of this inner well, let's do it like this. Take this thing out in one assembly. You can leave the oil stick there. Okay. That there on the inner wheel well is that bracket I was referring to that the air clearing box clips to. Next, we're going to take and remove the belt, the accessory belt. If you look down there, right there's your tensioner. Okay, if you look on the automatic tensioner, there's a 3/8 square. You take your 3/8 ratchet, pretty much is what it is. And you just pull it to the left, remove the tension, and then just slide it up and off the alternator like so. Now, for my next step, you can do this in any kind of format that you want. I'm just going to start opening everything up. When I drain this radiator, I'm going to do it from the lower hose. There is a pepcock on this one, but it's real hard to get to and it makes more of a mess. So I put a nice wide drain pan underneath the engine, and I kind of slowly remove that lower hose. You know, you just don't want to rip it off, but I'll show you more once we get to that point. So for now, let's remove the throttle cable and the cruise control cable. Now there's a few different methods you can use for removing. I like taking off the whole bracket. It's two 10mm. You got one 10mm stud. Take that nut off, and then this 10mm bolt that goes into the throttle body. Now the throttle cable is this inner one that has this old style push-in, you know, kind of hook and lock. This one here is more of a clip. This one here, you just push it back and it kind of snaps out like so. Hopefully you can see that. Throttle cable, just pretty much give it some throttle, spin the cable around. I know I'm in your way. It's just like your old bicycles, you know. Swing it down and pull it out. Just like so, and then we're going to take and remove the two retaining bolts. And take and put this off to the side. There's one more little bracket over here I'll show you. Okay, so if you follow the cables over here, you'll notice there's a retaining bracket. Kind of keeps them loomed out of the way. I like taking and removing this bracket just by removing this one bolt, one retaining bolt. However, you do have your evaporation hose that runs down. If you can see down there, just uses one of them style push-in clips. So you just go down behind there, behind the bracket, push one end up, get it started out, and then it pulls right out. You got another wire here, kind of push and release type deal. Now I can take and remove that bracket. I sure missed you guys. Hope everybody's doing well. Just certain times call for certain situations, you know. It's part of life. So we just take it as we can get it, you know. Alright. Next I'm going to take and unplug the AC clutch. Two little tabs. I can take and unplug the EGR at this point as well. You'll see it's right here in the front, and then there's also a temperature sensor. And we'll have to continue back once we get to that point. You got a pressure switch here on the AC. Hopefully you can see that. Pretty much push plug and play type clip. Now we're going to take and remove the 4 retaining bolts off the top of this AC compressor. Come on. Now for those of you who don't do this every day, make sure you mark your hardware. Oops, got one more plug back there. Back of the AC, should have known better. I said push style plug. Just pull that, pull that. Okay. Now we're going to take and we're just going to put this out of the way. Now you could discharge the AC and all. There's no need for it. I just take and I flop it to one side. That's what's nice about removing the air cleaner box. It gives you a place to put that AC compressor. Might as well just concentrate on this area for a moment. As you can see, the leaky intake, they tend to, it's usually the corners tend to give out. And you'll see it more once I take it apart. I was going to show you the leak, but it's really hard to get in the back. And this one leaks a little bit in the front. Maybe I give you a shot in a little bit, but it'll be obvious once I take this intake off. Okay, so what we got to do, there's a bolt. Can't really see it back there without me climbing up. That's tucked in underneath this bracket, your AC bracket, which is also your power steering bracket. What we got to do, you got 3 retaining bolts, 1, 2, 3 up high. Then you got one, you can almost see the head of it. It's right down there below the power steering pulley. These are 9/16 or 14 millimeters. We'll do the trick. I think I mentioned before, this is a K1500, which means it's 4-wheel drive. You got your C1500s, which are 2-wheel drive. So, just in case you didn't know. Okay, the one's a stud, 2 upper retaining bolts removed. I'm going to grab that lower one real quick, and I'll be right back at you. Okay, I got the top 3 removed, and that lower one, maybe you can see it now a little better since I got it pulled out. And yes, I did this all from up top. If you look down there behind the power steering pump, there's a stud. If you follow this one bracket down, see the stud that comes out of it? There's a retaining nut that retains the back power steering bracket in place. Take and remove that nut. As you can see, it's slotted. And once you remove that, you could move it and access that bolt, and that gives you enough room for that intake manifold to be removed. You don't want to pry this around too much. You got metal lines down there, so just be careful. Just do it just enough so you could gain access. Okay, next. I know it seems like I'm voiding and draining that fluid like the plague, but it is what it is. I'll get to it eventually. So as you can see, I already unplugged the EGR, temp sensor, AC compressor, as you've seen earlier. Now I'm just going to start unplugging everything else. You know, the manifold absolute pressure sensor, all your other things that get hooked up to your body, your throttle body, like your TPS, your idle air, and coil. Pretty much it's all plug and play. They only plug in one way. No need to really mark anything at this point. When you flop it over, everything lines up. Well, at least I can say I've had pretty good luck that way. So, let's start unplugging. This one here is for your spider injection. That one has this retaining clip you got to pull out first. Then you get behind it and sometimes it's easier said than done. Unplug it like so. You got this plastic evaporation line. I don't want to break it, so I'm going to unplug it. Move it out of my way before it's too late. This has one of them retaining clips that you just push down and it unlatches. Just stick that out of the way. Some more wire looms, just a clip style. Try not to bore you guys with some of the obvious. Another monstrous retainer. Okay. Once you start popping these retainers, everything will loosen up for you. Good for me. I'm going to take a 1/2-inch socket, remove this ground strap, and I can pull this part of the harness out of the way. 9/16, 14 millimeters. I'm just going to stick it back on there temporarily. Yeah. I'm just going to remove a little retaining. Now you could either remove the retaining bolt or just simply pop this clip. I'm just going to pop it. Alright. I'm just going to remove that other temp sensor wire for now. Okay, now we're making some room. Might as well remove the PVC hose. Got this other vacuum line for all your climate controls. I'm going to take and unhook that. Tuck that out of the way. Okay guys, we're making progress. We're gonna have to take and remove the CGR tube as well. Okay, for the CGR tube, 7/8 wrench will do the trick. I believe a 22mm will also fit it, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Somewhere around there. Let's see if she breaks loose. Oh, that was too easy, and that wasn't even staged. Okay, next I'm going to climb in the back and remove all the ignition wires. As you can see, I went and numbered all the corresponding. As you can see, this cap has them labeled, but in case yours doesn't, it goes 5371 coil 6428. Okay, next I took and removed the 2 retaining torque screws for the cap. I believe it's a T10 or a T15. Okay, now you can see the rotor. We are not going to move the engine. We're not going to turn the engine over after this point. We're well beyond that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take and mark that rotor location right where you see it. So, because we got to remove that distributor. So where that rotor is pointing, I'm going to take and mark the rotor and the base in that exact location. Now it'll get us real close when we put the distributor back in. Okay, so a lot of you guys are probably saying, well, why don't you just put it on number 1 and line up all the marks that way? I do this just to save time, guys. This is just one of my time-saving steps. So, as you can see, I put a mark on the rotor and on the distributor itself. So when I set this back in, 1 tooth off either way is going to be a huge difference. And that'll get me close, and I'll set the rest with the computer. So now I'm going to take and remove the electrical connection. In addition, I'll try to give you a shot of the retaining bolt. We'll remove that. Okay, before I do that, to give you guys a better view and easy access, because we don't have to remove the upper intake plenum. That's pretty much just for the spider injection if you're doing that job. We can leave this on the lower intake. This has been done not too long ago, actually. So if you look back here, you got these 2 retaining bolts on this coil bracket. I'm going to take and remove them and remove this coil out of the way, give you guys a better view. And in addition to that, before removing the distributor, you want to take and blow all the debris off of the intake and valve covers. You don't want any of that falling into the oil passages. Okay, now with the coil removed, you can see it gave me a much clearer shot. I didn't take and remove that bracket in the back. You'll find when you go to do this job, there's that metal bracket that goes behind the coil. I just take and I bend it up and actually acts like a little stand for this wire harness. Gets it up and out of the way for you. But once you get the coil removed, you'll see it has 2 retaining bolts. You know, it really gives you a lot more room to work. Not saying it's necessary to pull off. It's just easier, especially for recording. So you can see the retaining bracket on the back distributor. It takes a 1/2 inch. If you have this coil off, you can do it with a regular wrench. If not, you need a special wrench to get the angle, or a swivel socket maybe. As you can see, I put a quick index mark just to show me where to put the base roundabout, and then I line up the top marks. We'll go further into that once we go to put it back together. Alright, so I got this all blown off. I'm ready to pull the distributor. Oh, fun. There she is, boys and girls. Okay, next you need a 5/8 wrench, and you got to disconnect the fuel lines. You know, sometimes they come right off, sometimes they can be real bare. Relieve your fuel pressure and break your lines loose. Hey, you might need a 3/4 inch wrench along with the 5/8. These ones just broke right loose for me. If you look right here, I got to remove this 1 retaining bolt for the EGR tube. So I'm going to take and zip that out. The way this intake's set up, you got to remove at least 1 valve cover. So I'm going to take and remove the right side. And it's just the 4 retaining bolts down the center of the valve cover. I'm going to take and remove it. Good way to send sockets flying. That's okay. Okay, I like to give myself as much room as possible for a clean shot. So you see I took a bungee cord, hooked it up to that bracket, pulled it up to the wiper arm. As you can see, we're just about ready to yank the intake. However, it's still full of antifreeze. And we have a heater hose right here that's connected to the intake. We have our upper hose. We have our other heater hose. So now we're forced to drain the fluid. So what I'm going to do to drain the fluid is simply put a bucket underneath it and slowly remove the lower radiator hose. One thing more I think I'm going to do, it's not totally necessary, I just like giving myself enough room. You got that 10mm retaining nut that holds this wire loom bracket. I'm going to take and remove that bracket just to give me a nice clear shot. So if you have to take a leak, you might not want to listen to this part. However, that's the lower radiator hose as seen from above. I'm going to try to do this without making too much of a mess. I got a drain pan underneath. You simply just pull it off to the side like so and slowly drain it. I know you can't see it, it's a terrible shot. But you do it in this manner. You don't want to just yank the hose off because then it's just going to go everywhere uncontrollably. But this way actually controls it pretty well. It's a pretty straight shot. I think you get the idea. Once you start getting a little lower, take and remove the radiator cap, and it'll allow it to flow out a little bit faster. I think I'll do that now. Okay, well maybe not. Okay, well, there you have it. I'll let that drain down for a little bit, and then we'll take and start yanking. While that's draining out a little bit, I don't know if you could tell where that front intake's been leaking. Might not be showing up, but it's been running down. It's a real slow leak. It only does it under pressure when it's warmed up. However, I want to get it before it gets too bad. The back's leaking a little bit worse. As you notice, I had green antifreeze in it. That's because I did away with Dexcool on the last service. And it also has a new water pump on it and whatnot. And plus this quick connect fit. And these things are known for breaking or blowing out. So if you're doing a job like this, replace it. Because that thing will, if it ran with Dexcool in it, that thing is going to go, and it could go at any time. So I picked this up at AutoZone. I actually have the part number for that quick connect. I got this out of AutoZone, so it's 800-401 401 800-401. It's quick connect GM. This was the smaller of the two, and that's where I found it. Yeah, that's the timing chain out of it. I also replaced the timing chain while I was at it. I had the water pump and everything off it, and then I realized the intake manifold's leaking, and there was a lot more work done to this thing, like I mentioned earlier. However, this is the part I'm covering for you, so sounds like she's drained. Okay, for his quick connect, it's kind of a pinch and pull. Pinch, wiggle, and pull. I push down a little bit first, get a nice start, and then I just yank it. Be careful, the guts can fall out of that. Okay, I just popped it out of its retaining bracket and tucked it away over there to keep it out of the way. Next we'll take and remove the upper hose. Pretty straightforward. Crimp clamp, pull it off. Okay, for this heater hose, I chose to disconnect it at the water pump only because I had this one off recently when I put the water pump on it. Therefore, whenever you have a line that's been off before, it's not, you know, attached fast, because it gets like a corrosion in there that makes them tight coming off. So I just removed this little idler Gave me some quick access. Even if I had to squeeze clamp, it gives you a nice straight shot. So that's just where I chose. You can take it off on the lower manifold if you want. Okay, now there's only 8 retaining bolts that hold this intake manifold down. You got the 2 here, 2 in the back, 2 in that side, and 2 in this side. So let's take and zip them out. Here we go. This one's a little tight. Yeah, you can get it. No worries. A lot of times to make it easier, I take and remove this heater hose and flop it out of the way. Maybe I'll do that for you guys. But I'll just see how ambitious I'm feeling. Let me get a swivel for that one. I take them out only because I don't like fetching them later. Silicone sometimes holds you. Let me jump to the back. Just double check. What's going on back there, boys? I got a little retaining screw from an old distributor cap sitting there waiting to fall in. That's why it's good to double check everything. Okay, there it is. Okay, yeah, it was just a silicone holding me. So let's see what I can do. There she is. Okay, I'll show you a common failure point on these gaskets. Hopefully you can see it well. As you see, the material just disintegrates. I don't want that to fall down there. The gaskets just pretty much, they fall apart. Everything becomes real brittle. So what happens is it gets all brittle and collapses, and this rubber isn't really much. And what it does, it just starts leaking because it only has 4 retaining bolts on each side. And that really isn't much, you know, when you think about it. So once you start losing support across the gasket, they start, you see that one's pretty much deteriorated as well. So it wasn't long for the world. So let's clean her up. Okay, before I take and scrape this all off, I just want you to take notice. From the factory, they use silicone. This is a long debated situation here. Alright guys, I think it's moment of truth. What do you think? Let's see what starts.